have motions?
Okay, just 1 second.
Are there going to be motions?
I didn't realize there was going to be a motion. An issue?
Well, if there are motions, I'd like to see
Yeah.
them.
Right, we'd like to see.
Oh, okay.
Okay, is it time? I guess it is time. Okay, I'd like to open the RMLD Board of Commissioners meeting. This meeting of the Reading Municipal Light Department Board of Commissioners is being broadcast at the RMLD's office at 230 Ash Street, Reading, Mass. Live broadcasts are available only in Reading due to technology constraints. This meeting is being videotaped for distribution to the community television stations in North Reading, Wilmington, and Lynnfield. Let me start the meeting by reading our code of conduct. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of hearing public comment at the discretion of the chair on items on the official agenda as well as on items not on the official agenda. We ask that all questions or comments from the public be directed to the chair and that all parties, including members of the RMLD board, act in a professional and courteous manner when addressing the board or responding to comments. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. It is the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comment or ensuing discussion. Thank you. I'd like to start off by welcoming our newest member, Tom O'Rourke, to Board of Commissioners. Tom, welcome.
Good, thank you, John.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And I'd also like to welcome Dennis Kelly from the CAB. Welcome, Dennis. Okay, good. So I think we can move right into the capital and operating budgets.
Okay, great. Thank you and good evening. Thank you for allowing us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry. One more other thing. I have to note that we have a remote participation tonight from our Commissioner Talbot. Commissioner Talbot, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. We can hear you fine. That's great. Thank you. And the reason that you're calling in remotely is because of geographic distance. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no
Just
problem.
couldn't see.
Dave, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you for allowing us to present the operating and capital budgets cohesively this evening. The RMLD annually files a DPU report which provides the outline and basis for all electric utility budgets. FERC accounting essentially divides electric budgets into operating, the 500-900 series numbers, and the capital, which is the 300 series numbers. Tonight, each division manager will first provide to you the highlights of their operating budget and then their capital outlay. It would be our intention going forward to present the budget in the same cohesive manner. The budget has been reformatted to tell a story via a 6-year plan. What has happened, how we are doing, and what we plan to do in the future. The justifications to what we do are all, for all intent and purposes, are backed in large by engineering standards, science, and a sprinkle of politics. Our objective is straightforward. We want the decal on the side of our trucks that says reliable for generations to be true. To maintain that objective, a utility must have strategic plans in place that address the electric system, its power supply, and its employees, along with its financial health. These plans address efficiency, safety, and procedures to optimize reliability. And when formalized and implemented on a consistent basis, we will be true to our motto. The 6-year plan will remain updated. The operating 6-year financials focus on revenues and our statutory duty to cover all of our production costs. Our capital 6-year plan focuses on reliability and the essential enterprise projects and appropriate funding, including the depreciation fund balances. One issue I would like to mention is the percent change that you see in your operating budget. I want to note that this is not reflective of a difference from the FY14 budget, rather a percent difference from what has been spent. So it can be a little bit confusing. I wanted to make that note. With that, I'll turn it on over to our Chief Financial Officer, Bob Fournier.
Good evening.
Bob.
Tonight, we'll be presenting the FY15 operating budget. I distributed a handout prior to the meeting, and when we get to those sections, I'll let you know when to refer to them. Everybody received their full document like this here. Tonight, we're just gonna deal with the summary section. We have the individual divisions detail as a reference, but we will not be going and discussing it division by division. We're gonna be looking at the summary section only. So turning to that section right now in the summary tab, if you turn to that, you'll be coming to see the 6-year plan, which basically shows what we're doing currently right now in the current year, which shows 7-month actual and what we're projecting out for the budget for the remaining 5 months of this fiscal year. The FY15 operating budget, which we'll be presenting tonight, and then going out 4 more years to show that picture. Probably of note is the bottom line, the ROR percentage, which is the rate of return. By statute, we're allowed to make up to 8% of our net plant, and those percentages at the bottom of the page show what we're anticipating based on those revenue projections and expense projections for those upcoming years. So flipping over to page 1, which shows the 2015 budget, 2014 7 months, 5 months, and then the FY13 actual. That's where I'll be starting. But before I get to that page, if you look at the first page of the handout, the one that has, it says operating budget draft 1. And without oversimplifying the operating budget, what this page does is kind of, at 30,000 feet, show you what's contained in this budget. So in FY15, we're projecting to have about $87 million in expenses. When you look at that, this business is a highly fixed cost business. When you look at your purchase power, base costs, fuel costs, what we use for depreciation, our commitments to the towns, and normal accounting processes, which is the miscellaneous deduction for a loss on disposal. Of the $87 million, $73 million of that is more or less fixed costs, which represent about 84% of the budget, which leaves about 16%, or about $14 million of semi-variable costs, which entails the balance of the budget. And looking at some of those items, the obvious ones, labor expense, employee pensions and benefits stands out, overtime, our insurances, training, bad debt, all normal accounting activities that take part during the year. And so that it doesn't become too cumbersome, you know, the 16% really is a fraction of the total budget there. So looking again back on, and just another point of interest, as I said, we have the detail for all the divisions behind here. We're not a line item budget. So we do put expense items as a line item to help clarify to the reader what constitutes that expense amount, to give the reader an idea. But we're not a line item budget. So this is our best projection of what we think the upcoming fiscal year is going to bring for us. So on that page 1 that I alluded to a little earlier, we're looking at the FY15 budget, which we're presenting tonight. We have the 2014 7 months actual, 5 months budget, and last year's FY13 actual. As each division manager comes up, they'll be explaining the main drivers, which makes up their 2015 budget to arrive at that $2.5 million net income.
Mr.
Please,
Chairman,
go ahead.
Bob, could you just speak to the changes that we made prior to the CAB meeting?
Okay, I was going to say that to the end. We can do it right now.
Oh, okay. Just because it speaks to the 2.5 million.
Okay, if you look at the last page of the 3-page handout I gave to you prior to the meeting, RMLD noticed some changes or adjustments that needed to be made from the 2.5 million that was presented in draft one. The first two was just a reclass on the capital, from the capital labor budget to the operating budget, which was a decrease in net income of about $15,800. Yours truly on the CAB side, $45 adjustment, but we want to be as accurate as possible on that. The big ticket item was the decrease in tree trimming expense from $757,000 to $640,000. So there will be a draft two. The draft two will represent a net income of $2.6 million. And that is what, at the CAB meeting, was, the CAB recommended to approve that amount. It was their recommendation.
So this is up to date with the CAB approval of the,
CAB is on board with this figure, that draft to 2.6 million, and, yep. Okay,
Great,
so,
thank
we just kind of covered pages, the summary on that page one. The rest is just detail of that page one. It just shows the breakout of the revenue and other expenses, but when it comes to the expense side, the division managers will be addressing those as we go along. So the next section we're gonna come to is a description of RMLD's power supply, which Jane will make her presentation on.
Bob, let me just ask, are there any questions or on Bob's presentation, this first piece? Great, thank you.
Thanks. In the past, with several new board members, one of the recommendations were that we list the different various projects that we have various unit entitlements of with a little description of them. So I won't go through project by project, but this is just to give people a flair of what comprises the RMLD's power supply portfolio. Unless the board wants me to go through each project, but.
No, I think we're fine probably on that. It was a good description and good write-up.
Following the description section is a list of the purchase power expenses, and they're broken down by project types as well as capacity, transmission, and energy. Some of the contracts are long-term unit contracts that we get all different portions of, and then some of them are just energy-only contracts. So if you go to the column in the middle with the C, T, and E denotation is capacity, transmission, and energy, and then the totals. At the very bottom of the page, for capacity, the capacity total is $16.3 million. The transmission is $12.556 for a total of $28.889 for the fiscal year 15 budget. And fuel is projected to come in at $36,249. That's with current natural gas spot indices, and when those actually come in, there'll be discrepancies, but that's based on the market conditions at the time the budget was created.
And these change over time, Jane, and obviously as a function of.
This is our best. Usually we go out for an annual RFP, which looks 4 years.
Mhm.
This is the current projection based on the existing portfolio.
Great. Are there any questions, observations, comments? Please, Mr. Commissioner Sully.
If transmission should go up during the year, is there any response that the RMLD makes?
Yes, currently within our rate structure, we have a purchase power adjustment, and which looks at the forecasted transmission costs, and then it compares the actual transmission costs. So if there's an increase midstream, we're able to make adjustments through the purchase power adjustment clause. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
So we're at the end of Jane's power supply memo. We look at another section called page 1, which is what we see typically in our monthly financial. It says budget actual comparison summary schedule, and then that is the 5 divisions of the RMLD, and we'll start going through the divisions with the division managers, and they'll be addressing the key points within their budget. Leading off for us will be Jane, Energy Service.
That's right, it has a new name now, doesn't it?
Integrated Resources and Planning Division Manager, Director.
Okay. I'm responsible for the integrated resources and planning. Within my division, there's two primary focuses. One is the wholesale side, which is the power supply, which I just described, the total budget being $65 million of that. The other focus in my group is the retail side and with the efficiency programs, as well as working with our commercial customers and our municipal towns. And so, as an overview and in line with the strategic plan, we're focusing on the power supply, which we try to maintain a competitive power supply so that we can maintain low rates. And then we're working on programs to help our commercial customers work efficiently, improve their programs, so that the programs that we develop, they both benefit the commercial customers and municipal customers and residential customers, as well as help the power supply in terms of focusing on peak demand reduction, because those are the costs that really drive our capacity and transmission programs, capacity and transmission costs on the wholesale side. So we're integrating both the wholesale side along with our customer base, and as well as tying into the electrical benefit and the short-term and the long-term reliability of the electrical system. So we're actually integrating all our programs with the electrical side, the wholesale side, and the customer side. And so we're focusing my budget in that direction.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question, if I may.
Please, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Sorry to be remote today. Jay, I was just curious, what you just said, is there an increase in the efforts in this direction on helping commercial customers?
Yeah, we're definitely increasing our personnel. We're working on economic development programs to work with our municipals that we serve in Wilmington, North Reading, and portions of Linfield, to try to grow our kilowatt-hour sales. By being able to grow those sales, that allows us to have lower rates because we're able to collect the revenue over a larger customer base. And then as well as programs that we're working to develop in terms of demand response programs, so that we can work with our customer base to manage that peak capacity as well as transmission demand on a going forward basis. So we're actively, sorry.
Thank you. I might be a little lost, but which line item are you referring to? Is there a certain line item that?
No, it's basically the strategy that we're moving forward with, Dave. So there's no one particular line item. It's the direction that my group, along with the RMLD, is working towards in terms of programs, staffing, and.
Got it. Okay, no, that's fine. The one quick follow-up is that do we have a understanding of what our existing fiber infrastructure is to help us in that regard? That question came up last meeting. I was just curious if this is something that, do we have enough communications infrastructure to do what you're talking about?
Yeah, currently, we're working, Bill and I have been actively working along with Hamid and the E&O group to utilize an outside vendor in the lack of having active personnel within the department to assist us in that. And so we will have definite communication capabilities without utilizing any fiber.
I see, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Solly?
How do you project load growth for next year? And if so, how much?
We've actually projected a flat growth minus the economic development piece. So it's imperative that, if we have a very hot summer, that will obviously contribute to the growth. Over the last 5 years, our growth has been flat to slightly decreasing. So for us to put in an increase would probably be aggressive, and we're taking a conservative approach, and we're really going to be focusing on that economic growth in order to assist us with our revenue requirements.
Thank you. I noticed that there was something from Town Hall as well, talking about a meeting for economic growth, or developing an economic growth portfolio. Was that part of your initiative?
I'm working with the town manager in Reading currently, and hopefully to broaden that once we perhaps develop a team. There is an economic development team in Reading. We're trying to structure a committee that focuses more on larger commercial and how that integrates into the financial health and stability of the RMLD. And, you know, it's going well, but it's not, it's just in its infancy right now. Again, we want to make sure that we coordinate that with what the flexibility of the system has and the programs that Jane has up and running. So it's all timing as far as, you know, it kind of has to move in parallel, I suppose.
Great, thank you. Great. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
The next division we'll be discussing will be the general managers, which Colleen will spearhead.
Okay, thank you. I'll do General Manager, Human Resources, Community Relations, and the CAB and the Board. With respect to the General Manager's budget, we took, this goes along with some of the other division as well. The legal fees were being categorized in such a way that didn't make a lot of sense. So I've reallocated those so that all legal fees that have to do with power supply will be under Jane. All legal fees that will have to do with employees and unions will be put under Human Resources, and all legal fees that may have to do with just general, like Chapter 164 questions, statutory, would come under the General Manager. So you might see a slight deviation in the fees. It's not that Human Resources is planning to spend more, it's just that it was properly allocated. I just want to make that note. As well, there's a part-time tech admin that will be going into integrated resources and planning to help with all of these programs moving forward. That other half was put into the general manager's budget and needed to be reallocated to community relations. It is our intent that community relations will be highly supporting integrated resources and planning so that we can have a much better effort to convey what we're doing to the public on a consistent and regular basis. Just so that you understand what the miscellaneous is under general managers, I'd just like to tell you it's APPA, NEPA, and all of the industry-related dues. As far as human resources is concerned, again, the reallocation of the legal fees, I just like to discuss the miscellaneous. That has to do with the physicals, the drug and alcohol testing, job postings, and the physicals for, the new employees and want ads and that, things of that nature. Under community relationships, the supplies in general had to do with the public power open house, along with the Rotary and chamber dues. The CAB is a budget that's based on the 20-year plan, has to do with travel, training, and consultants, and that figure was adjusted slightly back down to 15,000. I think that was a typo or something that was caught, and Bob had spoke of that. Other than that, there are no major drivers on any of those budgets.
I noticed that you slashed the board budget. I commend you for that, and gave that to the CAB.
Is the, what's appropriated for the CAB, is that in compliance with the 20-year agreement? Because there is a set amount under the 20-year agreement of which they are to have each year.
Yeah, there was a typo, and this is in accordance with the plan, correct?
Right, it's funny adjustments on draft, John, and you were here, there's a $45 adjustment we're gonna put through in the CAB, so they get them back to the 15,000 level where they need to be.
Okay.
Right, that was on that, the last
Okay.
page of that sheet.
I get it. Apologize for being late, but traffic is traffic.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colleen.
Dave Paulson, facilities managers, division manager will now present food budget.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is David Polson, Facilities Manager. So I have responsibility for 4 budgets. I just want to go over the budgets individually. The general benefits budget, there's some main drivers in there for pension increases. OPEB, post-employment benefits, and healthcare are the main drivers of the general benefits. The transportation, responsible for all the fleet. The fleet you'll see that there's no amount in there, only because that money's allocated to the different operating groups, but that budget is level funded. There's no changes in the transportation. We have developed an 8 to 10 year plan for vehicle replacement, and we're looking at that. It's in line with industry standards and other utility companies for line trucks, larger vehicles. So we're moving forward with that. Building maintenance, that's for all our grounds, outside and interior building maintenance for all our facilities. There's really no significant change there. We have looked at opportunities to make some changes so that we've reduced some of our costs. So there's a positive story on that. Materials management. Materials management is responsible for all the warehousing and some insurances, and that is there's no change in that, no major change. Any questions on the budgets?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
The next budget to be presented is the business division, which will be done by yours truly. Business division is basically responsible for the admin section, and also for the internal and external customers. There are really no major changes anticipated in FY15 from what we have currently in place, except for some of the obligations that are required through agreements that need to be in effect. But other than that, the 4 departments that comprise the business division, except for normal increases, there really is no major significant changes happening this year in the business division.
Any comments or observations from the board?
What's the depreciation rate on this?
3%.
3%?
Great, thank you, Bob.
The last budget we're going to be doing, engineering and operation. If you look at that handout that I gave you, the middle page, it says page 7. When you look at your books, you're going to see the left and the right side is the same. So you just insert that page 7 that says Tech Service Department, and that should finish the Engineering and Operations Division budget. Hamid?
Yes, good evening. I'm Hamid Jafari, Director of Engineering and Operations. I'm in charge of engineering, line operations, technical services, and facilities. The main drivers basically for my budget, my operating expenses are education, preventative maintenance program, tree trimming, metering, street lights, outside services, labor and supplies. And the education, the main driver, as you know, Colin and I, we are preparing the CDP career development plan for the employees. So in response to their needs, the skills and the training that they need in order to do their job more effectively and efficiently. Training program for the substation technical services for engineers, and in the area the SCADA, MillSoft, which is engineering model, the code, electrical code, and outage management systems. We also send engineers and staff to a number of conferences like APPA and NEPA to be aware of the industry changes, as well as the ECNI, which I'm a member, a teacher at the ECNI, teaching the technical courses for engineers in the industry, and the GIS overhaul, basically. You're gonna know, I'd like to make a note that GIS is a platform or foundation for building a solid engineering load flow model. And that is the driver for preparing or developing a number of preventative maintenance programs, such as transformer load management, which means we replace the transformers early on before they fail, the aged transformers. Then another driver, as I explained, is the preventative maintenance program, which includes hazardous waste, transformer disposal, pole inspection, maintenance of the aged overhead and underground facilities, which we are replacing the aged facilities in a number of URDs or the developments throughout all communities. Also replacing the porcelain cutouts, the infrared scan of the distribution systems and substations, and as well as the substation vegetation. For tree trimming, which is another driver for the expenses, we are revamping the cyclic tree trimming program. Again, once we have the engineering load flow model, that would indicate us the areas that, we have had problems in the past, as well as, the reliability indices. And then we're gonna have to alter the program to respond the needs to the area that, we need to make changes. Metering is another area that, for meter calibration tools and testing meters, we have expenditures, as you could see on pages 6 and 7. Street light maintenance. The outside services include the NERC compliance consultant. As you know, those standards that are keep getting increased. The BES is another one. Bulk electric supply is another standard that it's coming. It's right around the corner, and we're getting ready to be in compliance with that. Another driver for my budget is the labor, which we're hiring the 2 technical services in order to form officially our technical services group, so they can perform testing at the substations, and we can maintain our substations to make sure the source, because the reliability starts with the source. We're gonna make sure our source is reliable for station 3, station 4, and station 5. Also, 1 engineer / GIS in order to maintain the GIS model. As you know, our GIS model is being right now, we're trying to bring it up to date and bring the data and compile the data with the assistance of consultants. And 1 assistant foreman, which is another labor that, as part of the career development and also the succession planning that Colleen started. We are gonna have that. We're gonna hire that person. The next driver for my budget is supplies, which includes fire retardant clothing, substation testing, and this is the big ticket item, $150,000 that we're gonna spend in order to test all the devices at the substations, including transformers, breakers, the relays. So we have a demarcation for moving forward to start our cyclic 3 years, 3 to 5 years maintenance program testing to make sure, again, the substations are reliable.
Do you test those once per year or once every 3 years? I mean, what is the cycle?
For the breakers and the relays, that every 2 to 3 years. Breakers are 3 years. Transformers, I like to test them every 3 years, but you can test them up to every 5 years.
I see.
Some utilities they go 5 years. Some utilities they go 3 years. But in general, transformers and breakers every 3 years. Relays also you can do 3 years. However, I like to do them every 2 years for the reason that, these relays, they haven't been tested for so long, so we don't know what the status is, and until we gain confidence that they're doing their jobs. And then we're gonna go to the 3-year cyclic program.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Also, developing the cyclic vegetation management and also the labor that applies to those for the supply section. That concludes my presentation for the budget for the spending.
I just had a question in terms of training. Does the training you described also include training for eventually doing the underground ourselves as opposed to using outside services?
Yes.
Right, the train, do you want me to
Go
speak? Okay. The training, the technical services, we're gonna be starting off with, UPG is gonna come in and actually do a baseline assessment and testing, which we're gonna double as training, for our employees, to get us off the ground, and as Hamid says, to get a baseline of where our equipment is so that we can come up with a cyclic maintenance program. Same would be for the underground. Currently, Fishback and Moore is here, and we are having, we have 3 different vendors that sell cable, that we buy cable from, that are coming in for free and going to be providing us from some extensive underground training for our employees. With that, they will go at Fishback and Moore until the end of that contract. So we'll be able to double up on not only the underground work, but also get a training aspect out of it as well. So it will be a reduction in expenses at the end of the day, but until that contract is over, and until the first line of maintenance is done, we get over those humps, then you'll start to see a decrease in the expenses.
And that contract is, what, for a year, or with the Fishback and Moore?
Fishback and Moore, I believe, goes to the end of 2016 or 15. I believe in the end of 15, yes.
15, okay.
Right. And the UPG for the maintenance is going to be a 3-month,
3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months to do.
May 27th.
right, to do all of the, and we'll have a baseline to put into our program, and we're off and running from there.
Great, great, thank you.
We've already developed the maintenance software that automatically is going to tell us when it's their due, the next due date.
Right. We did that in-house, so that was.
And then in-house, station 3, 4, and 5. So we're just waiting for the data to be compiled. And once the data is entered, then it's going to tell us when the next due date would be for testing each device.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, question?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, just a question in general on the education development. Can you give us a feel of how much is instructor-led versus online, and then maybe how much is done in-house versus, outsourced?
But mostly these trainings, they're going to be done outside. Some of the in-house training that we can provide, like I can provide them myself, as well as Colleen. We got people in-house that they could do some of the stuff. Like, for instance, MillSoft training, although the initial training is going to be done by the vendor itself, then, the subsequent training for engineers, I can do them. That wouldn't be a problem. Some of the courses that I teach at ECNI, because we are affiliated with ECNI, they're going to get a special discount that, they can come to those classes.
Sure.
I'll be more than happy to run those classes separately if Colleen would like us to do. However, they're not going to cost much because we're getting a substantial discount for being a member and us teaching it.
And what
So-
about online? Is there much training available online for?
There are some training. My experience with the, online teaching and online learning is that, because of the technical courses, you need a live interaction with the instructor and also with the class. It would be better learning if it's in a class set environment as opposed to remote. However, it is possible for, remote. We try to do some of those for refreshers, because the people, once they get the basic understanding and knowledge of the subject the first time around in the classroom environment, then you can do refresher on online or remotely from conferences. Good question.
Any other comments? Thank you, Hamid.
Thank you.
So I said at the outset, there would be a draft 2. And basically the draft 2 is going to show is approximately $100,000 increase in net income from draft 1 from 2.5 million to $2,652,997. The CAB did take a vote and made a recommendation that net income figure be accepted for the FY15 operating budget. And they did vote 5-0 on that. So that's where we're at right now.
Great.
Is Mark here for the reason? Did he get to?
Mark will be here part of the capital budget.
He's part of the capital, okay. I saw him get up there for a minute. I thought he was coming forward. When Hamid got up.
Good job.
I have a
Great, thank you.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sully?
You have this 2.65 million, and I'm trying to correlate it to the 5.8. Oh, no, okay. Never mind.
Think about it.
Too much paper.
We
We're gonna commence the cap.
please, let's
Well,
do
you
that.
You wanna
Yeah.
vote on
We could vote on the operating, I suppose, right here, because we're,
Yeah, I mean, I
process.
have to leave at 6:45 tonight. I had a client meeting that got rescheduled from last week to this week, so if we could vote on that.
Sure.
I would-
Do I have a motion for approval of the,
I'll move that we recommend the 2015 operating budget with an adjusted net income of $2,652,997 as presented.
could I get a second?
Second.
Second?
I'll second it.
You? Any comments? Yes, Commissioner Sol?
I would like to amend it, and I'll read the amendment. Hope I get a second, and then we can, maybe you can let me discuss it. That the non-fuel, that's a new word, FY15 operating budget with an adjusted net income of 2.65 million, as it was, be approved, and that the fuel budget target a $2.5 million year-end value with progress towards these goals be reported to the RMLD each month.
Would you comment on that and explain why?
Would somebody second?
Oh, can I get a second?
Let me, I'm not sure I understand the motion.
number
I
did
was
not
trying to do,
change.
to be honest with you. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it'd be appropriate to maybe explain the motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's trying to be
The
accomplished here
number
before we
did
can-
not change.
Okay.
In the spring, we got into trouble because the board couldn't see that the real bottom line was being missed, as opposed to businesses, where they have one bottom line, we have two. One is we are allowed to make a profit. That's one bottom line. The other is the fuel charge we are allowed to pass through to the customers, but not make any money. And this motion mixes those two up. And we really should keep our eyes on two balls. One is, how are we doing towards the amount that's the 8%, taking out the fuel, and then how is the fuel doing towards meeting the reserve?
So this is to provide more visibility and transparency
Yes,
into what
that's
it
all it
is. And
is.
it's not depending on the, if I may, it's not depending on the budgeted numbers, but tracking it basically on a month by month or a quarter by quarter
Each month.
basis.
Mr.
We do
Chairman, may I
get, we
speak
do
to this
get the
for a second?
month, we do get the numbers,
Right.
but nobody has been subtracting out the fuel.
Okay.
and
Jane,
running
can
it.
you speak to this on the unbundling, perhaps? Make a recommendation on that motion?
My understanding, though, with the new cost of service and how the department is going to be unbundling their rates so that the distribution charge will be separated with the power supply charges, which will include capacity, transmission, and fuel. I believe the point that Commissioner Soley is making is because the way our rates are currently structured, part of the power supply costs are embedded in the base rates, which make it difficult to track, as he had said. I believe part of the cost of service proposal, and then the directive that the consultant is working on, is to unbundle those rates so that there will be much more transparency in terms of the power supply being a pass-through, and then the 8% that the board is talking about. So I believe that will help the board in terms of the financials and the transparency of the power supply skewing the overall.
So that will accomplish the same
Yes,
thing that Commissioner Soley is asking for?
I believe so, yes.
And if it doesn't, we can address it in terms of another motion at the next meeting, or at the appropriate meeting, to then further unbundle it so that we get an idea of what is happening. would that serve the purpose? Or, let me ask it a different way. How difficult is it to, because I don't understand how difficult it is to meet Commissioner Solly's motion? Is it merely a redistribution in the financials to basically reconstitute them? Or is it significantly more difficult to do the unbundling at this point in time?
Chairman, can I also, I want to make sure I understand it. So the amount isn't changing, so if
No.
we can approve the amount as originally motioned. So it sounds like it's a reporting, displaying data
Yes.
issue.
Yeah, that's
which-
how I read it.
So, which I would be in favor of, just so it's good to have visibility on items that,
Mhm.
aren't so easy to find. But that could be accomplished even with an addendum or a summary to, and being reported monthly, which I also think is a good idea. But I'm not sure it changes the motion.
We spoke to this issue, which is one of the objectives of unbundling.
Right.
When you unbundle, you're separating out all of power supply, including fuel, which are all pass-throughs. We don't make money on any of them.
Right.
So we're working towards unbundling to do that. We're going to have that as part of the cost of service presentation, and I believe the billing system is going to be able to handle that, correct? So we're working towards that objective. I'm not sure the purpose it serves right at this very moment. We are working towards what Commissioner Solly had requested. Is that,
In the past, in the cost of service studies, the capacity and transmission, we made money on. And what might happen when a new set of rates came out is the PPA that was on the bill then went into the base charge. So now we could make money on it. That's what I recall in the past.
Yeah, I don't think we make money on it. I think what happens is it's a part of our revenue.
Yeah?
But when you look at Bob's calculation in terms of what the department is able to earn a return on, that's our net plant, which comes out of the revenue. So we never make any money on capacity or transmission. We collect revenue through our rate structure, and we're able to earn a return on our net plant.
Bob? Does she speak the truth?
Yes.
I'd like to table this to an offline discussion. I think
we
it's
can
probably a good
accomplish
idea.
I think we can accomplish exactly what Bob's request is through a reporting mechanism.
Yes.
And I think unbundling the rates will accomplish that, and that's scheduled to be implemented for this fiscal year. So I don't think that there's a disconnect. But that's my opinion.
Could I ask you to withdraw your motion for this meeting and move to table it till we have a chance to see whether the reporting can accomplish the same mechanism?
We have two balls that we should keep our eyes on.
There's no disagreement.
And previously, we only kept our eye on one, and it got us in trouble.
My comment would be, I don't know if I fully understand what you're trying to accomplish, Bob, and I apologize that my
I
mind is a
don't
little bit
either,
blown
and
up a little bit.
I
but-
feel that we should
yeah, and
look
what
at
it-
this and
yeah.
consider it, absolutely, but I
Right.
think right at this moment, I don't quite understand it either.
Right, but
So
what I would like to do is, we vote on the budget, and then, we instruct the department to take a look at this and report back to us at the next meeting, with the, specifically on what, you're getting a better understanding, and I think I need to get a better understanding also,
That's
as to
fine,
what this is trying to do,
that's fine.
okay?
Okay.
All right,
Good.
very good. You didn't get a second, so.
I'd like to go back to the original motion. If everyone is in favor, we have to take a roll call vote because we have a remote.
Yep.
So if I could see a show of hands for approval. Aye.
Mr. Pacino, aye?
My right hand is in the air.
Okay,
Yes.
great. We have a unanimous vote, if it could be recorded, please,
Yep.
for approval of the operating budget.
Very good.
Thank you. I believe we can move on to the capital budget.
Excellent, thank you. The RMLD staff has done an excellent job generating the new capital outlay, which now includes, similar to the operating budget, a 6-year plan. While we are here tonight to focus on FY15.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Can I just make one comment?
Yes.
Yes,
And it's one of my pet peeves again. I noticed we got the sheet with all the months again. I thought we were going to eliminate that this year on the budget.
That's why I only dealt with the summary section, and I said
Okay.
at the beginning that detail just for reference, and internal use only, it was never discussed or brought up.
Okay.
I hear you, Phil.
I think we could save some paper, save a few trees. All right, I'm
Maybe
sorry,
go
Colleen, I
electronic
interrupted.
then.
I'm sorry, I
That's fine,
apologize.
no problem.
Yeah.
So it's similar to the operating budget, a 6-year plan. We're here tonight to focus on FY15. And we have provided you where we expect to land at the end of FY14, what we have scheduled for FY15, and then what we are planned for FY16 through 19. New focus items that were mentioned previously include the GIS, which is the mapping system that produces a geographically correct map of our system assets. The GIS, as Hamid said, is the basis for our engineering modeling software and works to determine the accuracy of our system, coordination and protection, as well as our future reliability planning. Addressing capacity and flexibility to meet the challenges of the future, including areas that we may be able to get additional kilowatt-hour sales. The second area we discussed previously is the lack of system maintenance, and we're developing a predictive asset management system that would tie into the GIS and serve as a basis for assessing the current condition of our assets. With the appropriate data loaded, will support predictive maintenance to extend the life of our equipment and schedule replacements prior to any equipment failure. The LED streetlight conversion, of which the pilot report is completed, and you will all be getting a copy of that this week, includes converting approximately 8,000 lights at less than $3 million for a significant energy savings to each of the towns and a decrease in maintenance. Engineering is finalizing that pilot, which we just finished yesterday, which targets the areas for the pilot light placements within each town. Jay and myself, the project engineer Brian Smith, are meeting with each of the town managers along with the CAB representatives for each town to go over the pilot. The street light rate is being produced and will be presented at the cost of service presentation, which you've all received a schedule for. Inventory is now being stocked with LEDs. We will no longer carry the conventional lights, and the towns will be credited for any lights that we replace. With that, I'm going to turn it over to, in the far left-hand column on your capital outlay, you now see that it's a 6-year plan. This handy-dandy spreadsheet on the far left-hand column, the F stands for facilities, M for MIS or IT, and S for anything that has to do with the system. On the right-hand side is a tickler, which kind of explains to you what the what the objective of the project is. And on the second page, you'll see that we put in the funding schedule for the plant depreciation. So between this, we are able to, so some of the items that you see beyond FY15 doesn't necessarily mean we're going to spend that money, but they're placeholders so that we're taking a conservative approach. We want to make sure that we have the funding so that we're, what's the matter?
My sheet doesn't fold out in terms
Your
of,
sheet
I don't know if we
doesn't-
have
Right,
extras.
that's, we have one right here. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's use
there
this
we
one.
go. Thank you. I wondered about that.
Okay, do you see if this, so on
Yep.
the second page, you have your depreciation fund.
Yes,
And that's a
saw
great
that.
little table as well, because it'll tell you what the starting amount is, what we're looking for, any type of force accounts, we might get state reimbursements, any bonding or anything like that, and where we land. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to the F group, which is facilities, and we'll go through the highlights. We're not gonna talk a lot about projects that have already been discussed in the past that are multi-year. We're gonna focus on any real changes for FY15.
previous year. This just reflects the plan out over a period of 2 years. The master site plan, very similar. That was approved last year, and what that does, it puts a placeholder in for fiscal year 16 and 17 for anticipated work that will be the result of the master site plan. Station 1 project rehabilitation, that project was planned, but that will be part of the overall site plan, and it was moved out as part of the facilities master plan outcome and the best use of the buildings. You know, we just want to make sure that we're lining up the facility here with our organizational plan, long-term strategic plan, use of the building, evaluate the lease spaces we talked about before. So we're really trying to integrate all the efforts that we're going through right now for a long-term plan. And that's why we shifted out the Station 1 rehabilitation. The covered storage, same situation. That falls under the site plan as well. Oil containment, that's new, and the oil containment is just, you know, we have a consultant looking at our facilities right now. We are in compliance. We have an SPCC plan evaluated all our facilities, and we're just evaluating to see if there's any opportunities to mitigate any potential risk we have. There are no issues. We're in compliance, but I think it's just prudent to move forward with this. So we'll be doing some studies this year and some work next year. Security upgrades, we just want to make sure that we're compliant with NERC and FERC requirements at our substations. We are constantly trying to make improvements in our security at this facility and at our other facilities. So over the next few years, we'll be adding some security at some of our substations as well. That's what this capital item is for. Rolling stock, we have developed a 10-year plan, and this looks out until 2019 on all our vehicles to make sure that we're levelizing our vehicle replacement, we're reducing our maintenance costs on our fleet, and you know, that's a long-term plan that we have. So that's it. If there are any questions.
Is the rolling stock getting more reliable, or is it pretty much,
No.
it is what it is?
You know, the rolling stock, we've reduced some of our stock.
Yes.
On our trucks. We've reduced some of our trailers, we've reduced some vehicles, we're evaluating our vehicles constantly, you know, reducing our fleet. That's our goal. We do want to make sure that we have enough vehicles to address situations we have severe weather.
Right.
We want to make sure that our vehicles are operating correctly. You know, we have a very good history right now of our vehicles up and running during critical times as well. So we have a good maintenance program on our vehicles, and you know, but we still look for opportunities to try to reduce our fleet costs. And that will be part of the organizational study as well to evaluate that.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
Night.
Pretty simple. It should be this year.
I have, there's 3 items this year. The 2 we always have, the hardware and software that encompass different things. So the first one is labeled 19. This is the Great Plains Cogsdale update. We're updating our back office financial and customer service management software. It's about 10 years old. It's ending its life cycle. So we're doing a conversion/migration. This is going to take up probably the rest of calendar year 2014. Could go into 2015 a little bit, but the target date is to get it done this year. It's a big project personnel-wise because it really touches everybody. There's a lot of training, a ton of testing involved. So that's the major one for me this year. And then we always have the hardware and software upgrades, licensing. This year, the hardware line item, for the most part, encompasses, we're turning everything into virtual machines. We're just about done, but we've got a few left to virtualize all our servers. And the related software and backup software and storage area networks and replication software that goes with it. And on the software, pure software side, we always put money aside for custom programming to try to build up the integration between outage management, GIS, utility authorization number management system, and other specific software, again, for backup and replication of virtual machines and related systems. But the GP Cogsdale, Great Plains Cogsdale is the biggie this year.
Have they been any issues relative to this new virus, this heartbleed bug virus? Or
It's a widespread issue, if you will. People use open source software for SSL, for secure socket layer connections. So it affected roughly, they feel, 2/3 of all secure websites. We haven't run into it yet. The biggies, the Microsofts, the Googles. We use Microsoft Office 365. A lot of the major banks had already patched it, but it obviously caught a lot of people by surprise. I don't think anybody knows what the fallout is or going to be,
Right.
but it seems to be minimal at this point, to the best of my knowledge. So,
Great, thank you.
Question, Mr.
Comments?
Chairman?
Yes, please.
So on the customer service software update, what's the expected go-live date, and is there much of a potential impact to customer service when that happens?
To answer the first part, the go-live date is the second or third week of December. That's loose at this point. We certainly want to do it by the end of the year, but again, it is a major undertaking. It's mostly training, and again, you have to do extensive testing. There's so many things that it touches, from metering to service orders to credit and collections, your receivables, the bill itself. We'll be changing the format of the bill, going, the unbundling portion is just one aspect of change. So there's a ton of testing.
Is it it's a hard cut? You don't run parallel systems?
You run parallel for certain things. It's very, very difficult to run parallel in everything. You almost create more work and more confusion by trying to tie everything out, if you will. The bottom line is make sure your receivables bill for bill ties out. That's really the main thing, where if I produce a bill on the current system, with all things being equal, is that bill going to look the same, bottom line, on the new system? So that's really what you test. There's adjunct systems to it, such as the metering, that has to be tested. But to run true parallel, it's a major undertaking. We just don't have the people, the bodies to do it. And sometimes you have to weigh whether it's worth it or not. But I've been through a few of these before. We do have a process, a procedure. And as far as the impact to customer service, our customers, it's minimal to none. So in the perfect world, they won't even notice the difference, and that's what happened last time. So we're hoping for that this time.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
The capital authorization, improvement authorization projects for my section. I'm going to start with project number 108, the relay replacement for Station 4 gas substation. That currently at the gas substation we have electromechanical relays that we're not capable of bringing analog data through the RTU back to the SCADA, and only one phase. In order to enhance the capability and use the full capacity of the SCADA system, what we need to do, need to replace them with the solid state relays, so we can bring more power quality data back, especially power factor and the harmonics. This is something that we need to watch, especially for the commercial industrial customers, to make sure we provide clean power to the rest of the customers. Project number 130, that's RTU replacement at Station 3. Actually, there are two RTU replacements. One is Station 3, one is Station 5. Station 5 is going to be done by June, end of June, or early, maybe mid-July of 2014. Station 3, it's going to be done in FY 2015. And again, the RTU, the current RTU is not capable of providing all the data such as voltage, current, and the power factor and harmonics. By upgrading that, that's gonna be, and upgrading this SCADA system, now they're gonna be synced in and we can bring more data back for engineering analysis. Project number 122, that's engineering analysis, software and data conversion. Engineering analysis and project 122, 125, they go hand in hand. As I explained, GIS is a platform for engineering models. Once we have the data in the GIS database completed and we bring the model up to date, then that data is going to be converted and is going to be transferred into the engineering model, MillSoft, and then we're going to have the up-to-date load flow model that we can perform all sort of engineering analysis, same as what the consultants they do in order to make recommendations for preventative maintenance. Project page 42, the next project is force account for on West Street. This is the project that it's going to be done per state request, and that's going to be done in FY 2015. They're widening up the road. The next project is pole line upgrade on Lowell Street in Wilmington. There is we need to bring that area. That's an old section of the old construction. We need to bring it up to code. Therefore, we're going to have to upgrade all the poles and upgrade the wires, and then multiple circuits on those pole lines that they're too close to one another, and then we're going to have to bring it up to code, and up to National Electric Safety Code.
Question on the West Street project.
The next project is
Do we have a question?
Question on the West Street project. Where they're going to widen West Street? Yeah, I wonder where they're going to actually widen that road. Do you know?
That's close to 93, Highway 93.
Because I know they're digging that road up now.
Toward the end of the West Street.
It's a 2-year project.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Not
it was
just to
two-
widen it, but
First they're doing the gas,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a
2
two-year
years
project.
later, it'll be done.
the good news is it's reduced traffic on West Street.
Not really, not really.
It's very bumpy.
Should have a tank,
Very
John.
bumpy. It's very bumpy, that road, I have to admit.
I kind of like
That-
all the police officers there.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The next project, distribution, protection, and automation. We are, once we have the working load flow model, then we're going to be start thinking about, and also the reliability study, 20-year planning study that we're going to be, Colin and I will be doing. That's going to provide us a roadmap for automation. That's the next step in order to further sectionalize the circuits. So in case there's a fault at the end of the circuit, it won't go back all the way to the source. And we can, minimize the outages. And also probably some level of automation once we have the full scheme. But you have to have a roadmap because that's very tricky. You need to plan it well ahead of time, maybe 10 years, 15 years ahead of time, which direction you're going with the automation in order to get it done right. So that's in the works. The next project is a SCADA upgrade, a SCADA system. The software is upgraded for free. That's surveillance software, which is good. They're also going to provide us the outage management system upgrade for free. However, for installation and training, there are some costs involved. I believe it's about $60,000, which is very well worth it. That means once the SCADA system is brought up to date with the RTUs at the substations, now we have the full capability of bringing data back for engineering analysis along with the MillSoft model, which is going to enhance the capability of the engineers in order to do all sort of engineering analysis. The next project is the LED street lights, which the pilot area, which Colleen explained. That's going to be we have the 4 areas picked in every town, in one each town, which we're going to have these lights, 80 lights. And then subsequently in the following years, FY 16, 17, and 18, we're going to be spending close to 1.2 in each year in order to replace all these street lights with a LED efficient light. That's going to bring some substantial savings for the towns. The outage management software I already explained. That's the next project, which is going hand in hand with the SCADA system upgrade. The next one is the predictive asset management program. This is a number of predictive programs. Once we have the working model again, then we can create these or develop these programs in order to protect our assets. The next one is the substation test equipment. As we are forming our technical services group, so they can test the substations, we need to provide them with the testing equipment. One of the testing devices we purchasing is the CPC 100 Omicron, which is capable of doing all sort of testing. That right now we have to rely on UPG, and once we train them, we're gonna take that ownership and we're gonna do the 13.8 kV testing from A to Z, the transformers and the breakers. However, for some 35 kV stuff devices and 115 kV, we're still gonna have to rely on outside services like UPG, because it requires specific equipment that are very expensive, and I think it would be beyond the scope of the separate training it requires.
Sure.
The next project is the arc flash study. This is also another requirement that we need to meet, and the study is going to be done hopefully as soon as the model, MillSoft model is completed, then followed by that, and first GIS, then MillSoft model, and then followed by arc flash study to see which area of town, which device we need to completely shut down whenever we do switching or any maintenance we want to perform, so we can perform the work safely and for the safety of the public, and also the employees are working with those. The next project is organizational and reliability study. That's what Colin and I, we send the RFP out to hire consultants in order to provide us a roadmap for the next 20 years that outlined with the priority what we need to and how we need to allocate the money and the spending in order to make sure we're going in the right direction with the plan, having a plan in place. The next project is, I believe that's the last one. The rest of them, they're continuing projects that they've been, they have started in previous years, FY13 through, and they're continuing through FY19. So that would conclude basically the highlight of capital authorization or capital improvement projects for my section.
Any comments or questions? Please, Commissioner Solly.
I was a board rep at the CAB meeting, and I wrote down a few notes that may be of interest. While it looks like for next year the depreciation would be at 3%, the general manager said that at some time in the future it might be necessary to fund this plan to increase depreciation to 5%.
That's because of the lifetime of software and other sorts of things.
It's a way to get money.
Increased, yes. No, it's good for cash flow, obviously. Yeah.
Can I speak to that?
Please,
for a
go
second? Again, what's in here beyond FY15 is placeholders. It does show that one way of doing it, the DPU allows you to increase your depreciation up to 5%. You have to file. But it's targeting areas like the facilities. If we're looking at the efficiency use of all of our facilities, and we would spend a certain amount of money maybe to renovate, because we're supposed to renovate the architectural building next door or whatever we're going to do in that, along with the LED streetlights. We're ramping up to 5 and then back down to 3. It's as opposed to bonding. There's a number of other financials. We could do a great job with economic development and get a lot more customers. So again, this is just to show the funding, and so that I'm not showing a budget or anything in the future that isn't being covered by some kind of financial creativity here. But it's short-lived. It goes up and then comes back down.
Thank you.
Within the capital budget, between large bids that are probably pretty well thought out, but we don't know what escalation is. And these are prosperous times. And other things that look to be just placeholders. There's about $1 million in here of what seem to be somewhat or maybe quite iffy. And I asked if we could get a report of how the plan is fleshing out as the bids are coming in. And the department agreed that yes, we could get that.
Okay.
But there's a lot of placeholders.
There are, and the impression I get, though, is that the placeholders are there because we're doing things new and differently.
Oh, yeah, good
And,
stuff.
you're right, we're setting that foundation for the future, and it's sometimes very difficult to see into the future until you have the foundation in place and being able to do it. And clearly, we're all about reliability.
Yep.
And lowering our cost wherever we can.
Reliability, efficiency, and productivity.
Yeah.
These are the three main reasons behind all these capital and forecasting the capital improvements moving forward. And when we
Mr. Chairman, it's my intention to, part of the writing this up in a 6-year and having, because prior to this budget, you never really saw what happened in FY14.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So now I'm letting you know how we're doing with last year. So as soon as this gets approved and we get into FY15, then I'll give you how we're doing in FY15 with each of the budgets. Would be just, what Hamid would go over quickly during our meetings.
Well, certainly
so
having
that-
the visibility into the future years is the way it should be done.
Right.
I mean, that's
We
exactly right.
believe in the assessments that Hamid and I did on the system, just from our expertise, that we've captured the smoking guns and that we're addressing them. There could be a little bit of shifting when the reliability study actually comes in. We did talk about at one of the meetings, the area of Wilmington where Target is, while we are upgrading the Ballville area to Target. We're probably looking at some kind of substation in that area. We're waiting for the consultant to, we did not put a placeholder in for that, but there are other things that could come into this, and if there's any major changes, once that reliability presentation is made, we might want to go back and take a look at this. But we think we've captured what we need to in this year.
I think it gives you visibility. It enables discussion. If they're not on the radar
Absolutely.
screen, you don't have a chance to talk about them. I did have one question, a curiosity. I had something like the GIS system and the systems area. So is there much support or interface with the information technology group? Because a lot of your areas have a heavy
yes,
IT
actually, we have a
component.
close coordinations, and I guess at the last meeting I mentioned, Mark and I, we provided a technology roadmap that I'll be more than happy to share that with you, to see that how all these different technologies, they come together, and we have a roadmap for that too.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I
all
couldn't make
we
the last meeting.
We can bring it all together. So we are
Yeah, that's interesting.
moving coordinated to make sure that all the technologies are well managed.
Good.
There's a one-line diagram. I gave that to the general manager, Colleen. She has that one line that
Because there's clearly a lot of overlap in every company.
It operates on like a superhighway, like a service bus, so you have outage management, your metering, your data, your SCADA, it all integrates in so that it can be managed and not one system can be down and affect everything else. So it can get complicated, but as long as you have a roadmap, and Mark's doing an excellent job, and we're trying to tie it in the best we can as we are able to get more data.
That's great.
basically there are three areas: the corporate environment, there is a SCADA or real-time environment, and DMZ, which is the demilitarized zone, which basically everybody, if somebody wants to have an access, they need to have VPN and dedicated IP address.
Right.
And they have to, Mark is gonna have to provide them access through the firewall, so they can only get the information that they need. And we got an expert in the house. Mark is our expert, so
That's great.
him and I, we've been working closely together in order to develop the roadmap. More than happy to share it.
Great, thank you.
By all means.
Did you have anything else, Bob? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we,
I'm sorry.
what? Are we good for the,
The employees took a bet of when we would be done, and everybody's looking at each other about who's gonna win. That's why I'm giggling.
oh, I see. So there's money on this. There's money being bet.
No, I thought Habib was next to win, and I'm like, if he keeps talking, he's gonna be.
Okay, good. Is there anything else that we need to make comments on or recognize? Nice. So, let's see, could I have a motion to approve the capital
Yeah.
budget?
Motion.
Want to give a motion?
Oh,
Or Bob, you wanna give a motion?
Oh, okay. Move to approve the FY 15 capital budget dated March 28, 2014, in the amount of $5,849,673 as presented.
Could I get a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? If not, could I have a roll call vote, please? All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Solely aye.
Stempak, yes. Aye.
O'Rourke, aye, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot, yes. Okay, thank you very much. I believe that's the end of our session, so could I have a motion to adjourn?
At 6:57, I move to adjourn.
A second?
Second?
So moved.
Thank you.
Who won?
All right, who won?